Have you ever been lying in bed, not doing anything, not moving, not speaking, and yet inside your head there's a storm, a current of thought spinning louder than your breath? You're not solving anything, not planning anything useful, just circling, replaying moments, predicting the future, trying to manage what hasn't even happened yet, and it's silent from the outside. No one would know. But inside, it's like you've never stopped running, and maybe you can't even remember the last time your mind was still. There's this invisible kind of tired, not the kind that yawns or slumps, but the kind that makes joy feel muted, that makes rest feel incomplete, that makes even the quiet moments feel loud. You weren't born this way. You didn't come into this world carrying noise, but somewhere along the way, life taught you that thinking keeps you safe. That if you can just stay ahead, just keep solving, then nothing will catch you off guard. So you began rehearsing conversations before they happened. You started analyzing pauses, rewinding what you said, wondering if you should have said less or more or differently. And all of it all, that mental weather became normal. So normal, in fact, that stillness now feels suspicious. Like you're doing something wrong if you're not mentally spinning. But what if you're not broken for craving peace? What if you're not lazy for needing silence? What if stillness isn't emptiness, but everything you've been missing, finally asking to be felt? Because here's the truth. No one told us growing up. You were never meant to think all the time. You were never meant to live entirely in your head. Thinking is a tool, but somewhere along the way, you made it your home. And now you're tired, not because you're weak, but because your mind never learned how to land. So today, we begin gently, not by forcing stillness, not by clearing every thought. But by remembering you're allowed to pause. You're allowed to stop thinking your way through life and simply feel your way back home. You didn't notice it at first. It began as something helpful, a little extra awareness, a little extra care. You thought ahead to avoid awkwardness, thought deeper to understand yourself, thought longer to be responsible, prepared safe. People even praised you for it. Said you were introspective, mature, thoughtful, and so you kept thinking more and more and more, until one day the thinking didn't turn off. Not when you finished work, not when you laid your head down, not even when you were laughing with someone you loved, because your mind had started to believe that if it ever stopped moving, something might fall apart. And that's when thought becomes noise. Not because it's loud, but because it never leaves. It trails you like a second shadow. You go for a walk, and your thoughts follow you like clutter stuffed into your pockets. You try to breathe, and the mind inserts commentary. You try to rest, and it whispers, but what if? What if you forgot something? What if that thing you said was wrong? What if tomorrow doesn't go well? And the noise doesn't sound like panic. It sounds like planning, like productivity, like being responsible. But deep down, you know it's not clarity. It's tension, disguised as control. Because here's the secret you might have forgotten. Clarity doesn't come from more thinking. It comes when thinking gets quiet enough for truth to rise on its own. You've probably felt it before. That unexpected sense of knowing that arrived not through logic, but through silence. Maybe it was in the shower. Maybe it was while watching clouds roll across the sky. Maybe it was in that soft moment right before sleep when you finally stopped trying to figure it all out. It came when you weren't looking, because wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't rush. It doesn't flood you with urgency. It arrives like a breeze, not a storm. But when your mind is always on, there's no room left to hear it. And I want you to know, truly know, that there's nothing wrong with you for wanting the noise to stop. You're not weak. You're not avoiding life. You're not failing for needing peace. You're simply remembering the truth of who you are beneath the noise. And the truth is this: you were never supposed to live inside your thoughts. You were meant to visit them, like a room you walk into to find something helpful. But then, to come back to your breath, back to your body, back to this moment, the only one that's ever really been here. So, if you're feeling disconnected, distant, or drained, it might not be your life that's broken. It might just be that you've been standing next to yourself for too long, watching, narrating, analyzing, instead of being. And the beauty is, you can return right now, not by clearing your mind, but by laying down the belief that you have to think your way to peace. You don't. You only have to stop running from the stillness that's been waiting for you all along. There's a moment, maybe you've felt it, when your thoughts begin to spin faster than your breath. When your mind tries to grip life with both hands and says, if I can just think it through enough, I can fix it. I can prevent it. I can stay safe. And for a while, it feels like it's working. You're 10 steps ahead in every conversation. You play out every outcome before it arrives. You keep the right words on standby and swallow the ones that feel too sharp. It looks like control. It feels like strength, but it isn't peace. It's effort. And underneath that effort is fear. Fear that if you stop planning, something will go wrong. Fear that if you don't prepare for the worst, it'll find you unguarded. Fear that without overthinking, you won't be enough to handle life. But let me ask you something. Has all that thinking ever truly made you feel safe? Or has it just made you tired? Because here's what no one tells you. Control, the kind that's rooted in mental overwork, is an illusion. It gives you the feeling of safety while slowly stealing your ability to feel anything at all. You become so focused on what might happen that you stop living in what's actually happening. You miss the softness of this breath, the steadiness of this heartbeat, the quiet joy of not knowing and still being okay. And if you're honest, you might admit, there's a kind of grief that comes with realizing how long you've spent managing life instead of living it. But that grief, it's sacred because it means something in you is waking up to the cost of your own vigilance, waking up to the weight of all the what-ifs you've carried like armor. And slowly, gently, you begin to see control was never what you needed. What you needed was trust. Trust that not every thought needs a solution, that you don't have to rehearse pain to survive it. That peace doesn't arrive when you've solved everything, but when you stop believing you have to. Let me tell you a quiet truth. The most powerful people in the room are rarely the ones thinking the most. They're the ones who have learned to breathe when others tighten, to pause when others react, to stay grounded even when they don't have the next move figured out, because they've discovered something. Stillness is not emptiness. It's where real power lives, and that power isn't about domination. It's about presence. So the next time your mind tries to convince you that you're falling behind unless you think your way out of this moment, just notice it, smile at it like an old habit, and then return. Not to control, but to the breath that's still here, the body that's still holding you, the truth that's always been waiting beneath the noise. You don't need to think your way into safety. You are already safe. The moment you stop trying so hard to be. There's a memory I carry. Maybe you've had one like it. I was walking alone one afternoon. No headphones. No notifications. Just my feet on the ground and the quiet rhythm of the world moving around me. At first it felt awkward, like I was missing something. My fingers twitched toward a pocket that held no task. My brain, restless, kept offering ideas, memories, reminders, unfinished sentences. But slowly, the thoughts quieted, and something softer emerged. I noticed the way the sunlight filtered through the trees, not just with my eyes, but with something deeper. I felt the earth beneath each step. I smelled warmth in the air, like dust and blooming things. And for the first time in a long time, I felt here, not performing, not solving, just being. And I realized painfully and beautifully that I had been living almost entirely in my head, a few feet above the rest of me, narrating, editing, calculating, but I had forgotten what it felt like to be in my own body, to notice my shoulders instead of judging them, to feel my breath without trying to change it, to walk not toward productivity, but toward presence. You see, when we're stuck in constant thought, we begin to drift. Our awareness floats above the moment like a drone camera scanning for threats or meaning or purpose. But the body, your body never left. It's been here the whole time, waiting for you to remember that it's more than a machine. It's a home. And sometimes, the most sacred thing you can do isn't to think differently, but to feel honestly, to sit in a chair and notice how it holds you, to drink water and actually taste it, to feel sadness and not interrupt it with logic. Because presence isn't a performance, it's a return. And the body, your body knows how to return. It remembers things your mind forgot. It remembers how to breathe before you thought about breathing. It remembers how to cry before you explained your grief. It remembers how to rest before rest became something you had to earn. So if you felt ungrounded lately, like your life is happening above you, ahead of you, without you, the invitation isn't to think your way back. It's to feel your way back, to come back to your feet, to your skin, to your heartbeat. Because the present moment isn't something you find. It's something you re-enter. And every time you choose to pause, to soften, to feel something, instead of fix it, you step back into a life that was never as far away as your thoughts made it seem. So here, now just take a breath. Let it be messy. Let it be shallow. Let it be real. Let it remind you that you were never designed to be a brain on a treadmill. You were made to be human. And that is more than enough. It's strange, isn't it? How silence, the very thing we say we long for, can sometimes feel like danger. You finally sit down at the end of a long day. The world quiets, the emails stop, the phone dims. There's nothing pulling at you, nothing urgent, just stillness. And suddenly, you feel uneasy. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts speed up. You find yourself reaching for distraction, the TV, the scroll, the mental to-do list, anything to fill the gap. But what if I told you that stillness isn't what's making you anxious? It's what the stillness reveals. Because when the world finally stops asking something of you, the parts of you you've been outrunning catch up. And for those of us who've learned to equate motion with safety, stillness doesn't feel peaceful. It feels suspicious. We start thinking, what did I miss? Why is it so quiet? Something must be wrong. But nothing is wrong. It's just that your nervous system forgot what peace feels like. You've been running on high alert for so long bracing, scanning, fixing, that calm feels like a trap. Like if you lower your guard, something will come crashing through the door. But friend, listen closely. Sometimes the silence isn't a warning, it's a welcome, a reminder that there is nothing to do right now, nowhere to go, no one to be, except the you that's underneath all the doing. Stillness isn't absence, it's presence, undisturbed. And I know that might feel scary at first, because when you finally slow down, the noise inside often gets louder. But that's not a failure, it's a detox. You're not falling apart, you're finally falling inward, into a space where you don't have to narrate your worth, where you don't have to prove your peace through performance, where you're allowed to exist without being consumed. Let yourself be quiet, not because you've earned it, but because you were meant to be quiet sometimes. Let yourself breathe without achievement. Let your body soften into the chair, into the floor, into the moment without explanation. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the return of your soul to its seat. And no, it may not feel natural at first, but neither did overthinking once. You learned to live in the noise. You can learn to live in the calm. So when the quiet comes and your mind says something's wrong, just smile gently and say back, no love, something's right. I'm finally home. There's a voice in your head, not loud, not cruel, but constant. It wakes up with you. It narrates your breakfast comments on your posture reviews, every conversation before it ends. It asks, are you doing this right, even when you're just folding laundry? And for a long time, it seemed helpful. It kept you sharp, responsible, reflective. It helped you catch your mistakes before anyone else could. It made sure you were never caught off guard, never careless, never too much. But over time, that voice didn't stay small. It became the lens you saw yourself through. And without realizing it, you stopped experiencing life and started explaining it to yourself. Every smile reviewed, every silence questioned, every joy analyzed until it dissolved. This voice, the inner narrator, doesn't scream. It whispers, and it whispers all day long. It convinces you that to feel safe, you have to understand everything. That to be worthy, you have to explain yourself. That to be good, you have to anticipate everyone else's needs. And so you shrink. You smooth. You polish your every response. You live your life like a draft you're constantly editing, until even peace feels performative. But what if I told you the real healing doesn't come from making the voice disappear? It comes from gently noticing that you are not that voice. You are the sky, not the cloud. You are the space, not the sentence. You are the presence that listens, not the loop that runs. And slowly, with softness, you can begin to loosen its grip. You can sit with a cup of tea and not narrate it. You can feel something rise in your chest and not label it. You can walk through your day and just live it, not perform it for an internal audience. This isn't about silencing thought. It's about remembering that you don't have to follow every thought like a thread that leads you away from yourself. You can stay here, unpolished, unexplained, unfolding. And in that space, something begins to unravel, not in a breaking way, but in a returning way. The pressure lifts. The performance softens. The little one inside you, the one who's been trying so hard to do life right, finally exhales. Because she doesn't have to earn stillness anymore. She gets to be held by it. And you begin to remember the version of you that existed before the narrator took over. The one who danced without thinking. The one who laughed mid-sentence. The one who didn't ask, "Did I say that right?" Because she wasn't listening to herself. She was just living. That version of you is not lost. She's just waiting for you to stop explaining and start experiencing. Peace doesn't arrive with fanfare. It doesn't knock loudly on the door of your mind and announce, "I'm here." No, peace slips in through the cracks, through the moments you leave unguarded, through the spaces you resist the urge to fill. But most of us were never taught how to leave those spaces untouched. We've been raised in noise, rewarded for motion, praised for productivity, even when it left us empty. So when the pause comes, we panic. We check our phones. We open tabs. We plan. We narrate. Anything but be still. But here's the quiet truth. Peace often waits in the very places we rush to escape. In the breath you take before responding. In the few seconds of silence between songs. In the way your hands feel when you're doing nothing at all. Peace isn't flashy. It doesn't compete for your attention. It's humble, gentle, like sunlight through a window you forgot was open. And yet, it is what we crave most, not the next answer, not the next accomplishment, but the feeling of finally not needing to chase anything. We think peace will come once we figure everything out, but it's often what arises when we stop trying to. Let me tell you something strange and sacred. Some of the most healing moments you'll ever have won't come from breakthroughs. They'll come from silence, from stillness, from the absence of your usual mental performance. Because in that absence, something ancient inside you gets to speak, the part that remembers how to feel joy without justifying it, the part that knows how to cry without turning it into a problem, the part that can just sit and be. It's not easy, I know, especially when the world has trained you to equate your worth with how much you contribute, how much you think, how much you do. But what if the most valuable thing you could offer was your undivided presence, not your solutions, not your strategy, just you whole resting alive? Because that's where peace hides, not in figuring it all out, not in solving every discomfort, but in the sacred spaces you choose not to fill. Let the silence stretch a little longer. Let the moment pass without commentary. Let the breath soften before the next task arrives. And when the voice in your head says, "You should be doing something," you can simply whisper back, "I am. I'm being." And that is more than enough. Somewhere along the way, we were taught to chase the extraordinary, to make every moment count, to optimize, maximize, improve, to turn our lives into highlight reels and our days into performances. And in that pursuit, something quiet went missing. The beauty of the ordinary, of sipping tea while staring out the window, of washing dishes with no podcast in the background, of walking just to walk, not to measure steps or burn calories or get somewhere faster. We forgot how to let life be enough when it's not impressive. We became so accustomed to curating meaning that we forgot how to receive it. But healing, real healing, often begins in the most uneventful places. In the way the light moves across your wall at 3 p.m. In the way your dog sighs when he settles into a nap. In the stillness that wraps around you when nothing is expected of you for just a little while. You don't have to perform your existence to make it valuable. You don't have to turn your healing into content. You don't have to explain your softness to anyone. You get to let life be plain, be tender, be enough. And in doing that, you might notice something unexpected. The ordinary starts to feel sacred. The mundane becomes medicine. The silence becomes a sanctuary, because you're no longer judging the moment based on how it looks from the outside. You're feeling it from the inside, fully, quietly, truly, and maybe for the first time in a long time. That is what matters. Let yourself have boring days. Let yourself lose track of time without guilt. Let yourself be present without making it poetic. This is what freedom feels like. Not a peak, not a triumph, but a soft return to your own breath, to the you that doesn't need to impress, to the life that doesn't need to perform, to the moment that doesn't need to prove its worth. Just this, just now, just you quietly alive in a world that forgot how to rest. So, if you've made it, here, let this be your permission to be ordinary, to be enough, to be here without doing anything to earn it. Because peace was never something you had to strive toward. It's what was waiting for you when you finally stopped